Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are here to cheer you up and warm you up during this holiday season with winter essentials for health. So we're here to answer questions and give you some guidance about what you can do to keep your immune system strong and hopefully prevent flus, colds, coughs, all of the stuff that comes with the dreary days. And so Dr. Lewis, he will be educating you in only the way that he can about the different products that you can use and things you might not have thought of. So with that, Dr. Lewis, would you please tell us how we can stay cozy well in this wet, rainy season?
Oh, she always puts me on the spot. One thing I'd like to say is that it's really the attitude at the beginning of a difficult task, such as getting well. The attitude has more than anything else, is what affects the outcome. So you have to have faith and positive expectations, because I have people going in, they say, okay, which one of these can I take? I'm talking about supplements, and it's like, I told a lady the other day, you're the kind that puts 3 gallons of gas in your truck to haul your horses to a show, aren't you? She looked at me funny. I said, the people that get well are the ones that say, man, that's great. What else can I add? Those are the ones that get well. It's all about attitude. It's about expectations. And if you throw it in, know your body's smart enough. I was going to say your God is smart enough to do that. I guess I should go ahead and say that. I'm just thrilled. I want to say there's more and more people sharing this, and it just blows my mind. Janet and I are trying to do a really good job to lead people to better health. And for the ones that are willing, we get some people that have near miraculous results. So I'm going to talk about immune system, but as far as it goes with colds and flu, but I'm going to mention cancer many, many times, because if the research says that this is good for your immune system and in cancer, then, geez, can you imagine what it'd do for the common cold?
And flu. So, because that's what seems to be going on here in Texas, especially, as we're beginning to get a lot of people that are going to the doctor with the flu. And we're wondering, is there ways or things that you have in your arsenal that might help prevent you getting the flu?
Well, it goes back to George Carlin. He says, don't you think that's why we have an immune system? We have forgotten in our society that we have an immune system, and our body does have an innate ability to begin to heal itself. It does need something to work with, however, it does.
And can you eat those foods? Does that make you healthy by eating the correct foods, or are there certain foods that you can eat that help immunity be better?
Yes, and I'm hoping you're going to get into that, but let me just preface that. Let me just get right into the cancer. And I'm thinking, well, if this helps with cancer, it's going to help with everything else. It's called immune system. One of the things that we know for a fact is our soils are horribly, horribly depleted of the minerals. And what we do with modern agriculture is we add nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to the soil, but it doesn't do anything for the remaining 60 minerals that are found in the human body that aren't added to the soil. They've been depleted for many, many, many decades, since way before I was born. And so our body there's no way it can actually work as well as it could if you were full of minerals. Yeah, I paused. You said full of what? So, yeah, you can eat better if you get away from the processed foods. That's a really, really good thing. If you eat more fruits and vegetables, yes, that's a really good thing. Although too many of the fruits are too high in fructose, you need to avoid most of them unless they're fresh and in season. And try to go with the lower glycemic foods, which for the most part is strawberries and cantaloupe. A few others that you can get by with. I think apples are really good. Why do you want them organic? Because the average apple is sprayed 14 times with pesticides. And sometimes it's not just what they spray on. You can't wipe it off. That it's systemic. Starts down in the roots and comes up into the apple. You can't get rid of it. So one of the things that I talk about when I go over these, the consultation with the lab is, well, if your alkaline phosphatase is very low, you have to suspect that you're low in zinc. Now, we've known for years that zinc is a major booster of immune system, and that's just one of many, folks. But I talk also, if your liver enzymes, AST and ALTs, are a little bit on the low side, that if you wanted to simplify it, you'd be low in B6. Well, if you're low in B6, you don't have the energy, and that'll come in one of our questions from our Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. You don't have the energy, but you need the B6 to let the neurotransmitters, or the so-called happy hormones, cross the blood-brain barrier. If you don't have zinc, B6, if you have enough, can't be converted to P5P, which is the active form. So if zinc is missing, whoa, there goes your B6. Another thing, and this is also in the cancer research, but it's good to talk about for immune system, in general. You hear about beta carotene. It has to be converted to vitamin A, but it does not work unless you have enough zinc. It's not as simple as you throw one thing in. And that's why I tell people, they say, well, I'm taking a good multivitamin. It's like, no, it's not. And I tell them why. And you have to have good multivitamin because you have to have all these cofactors and these minerals and these vitamins because one plays on the other. For example, and this is out of Harvard. I read a lot of research, and I remember a little bit of it, thank goodness. And this was more about cancer. But again, if you boost your immune system to make it through the winter, you've got a much better chance of making it through and feeling fine. But you have something called a P53 cancer gene. Well, what has that got to do with anything? It has to do with everything. The P53 is very much in a bad way influenced by something called phthalates, which is the plastics in your plastic water bottle and all other plastics or most other plastics. So the P53, it kind of becomes more like a fertilizer for the cancer cells. And the beta carotene and vitamin A can revert it back to the gene that makes cancer cells commit suicide. And you have to have zinc to do that. Wow, how complicated can it be? Well, Janet and I make it as simple as possible. You do a very inexpensive but incredibly extensive lab. You get 30 minutes with me, whether that's good or bad, and I'll tell you, well, this, and this is in normal range, but normal doesn't mean optimal, and normal is not normal, it's common. That they get the ranges off a very sick America, so it gets real complicated, so Janet and I make it simple.
And one of those panels that you run on there is a CBC, correct? Which most people have heard of.
Yeah.
That's what your doctor does as a very basic test when you go in with a problem or you're not feeling well. But on that CBC, many times we can see your something called a WBC, which is your white blood cell count. And many of you are out there running on the ragged edge of almost crashing. And so it's not surprising that our immune systems, when the first wave of cold air comes through or a little bit of smoke gets in the sky, that we're all coughing and congested and wheezing because we're so inundated and barely traveling along we're not at anywhere close to being 100% with our immune system to start with. So is that part of why this really takes a hit for us during the wintertime, is that we're just so deficient to start with, and then something comes along like this and then we get sick?
How many husbands are out there listening to this and thinking, geez, I wonder if Dr. Lewis really listens to Janet? So I think I missed most of that. But yeah, we're running on empty.
Well, thanks.
No,
he doesn't hear either, apparently. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. I like to tease with her. She's always smiling. She's got a gorgeous smile. One of the things I really like to talk about is the mushrooms.
Okay, so you totally disallowed my question.
Where was I?
I'm just wondering if everybody's just running on the ragged edge to start with, and that's why when winter comes along or something like this, that they just kind of crater.
Yeah. I'm sorry, honey. Yes, we're running on empty. Yes, we're running on the ragged edge. And yes, we don't have enough vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and probiotics to hold off anything other than the most mild challenge. So yes,
Good.
honey.
Thank you. I'm going to start writing my questions on the podcast forum so that they can get answered appropriately like you guys are.
Yeah. Well,
tell us about mushrooms.
I really like mushrooms, and it's pretty simple. Janet's still laughing at me. Boy, I'm going to catch it when I get home, huh? I get people that read a lot of research, and I have some very incredibly intelligent and well-read patients. And I had this guy come in the other day, and he says, well, what about this and what about that? And I said, it's all in our immune essentials. He said, really? You've got that? I said, listen, I'm 20, 30, maybe 40 years ahead of the curve, I'm sure. But the immune essentials is doing some really, really super things because we see so many people that have lowered white blood cell count. That means you don't have Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force enough to do the job if something attacks you. So, yes, honey, I'm listening to you.
Immune Essentials is actually really good. It has cordyceps in there, which is one of the mushrooms that I love. My lungs love it. And I can tell you just from taking it we've only been carrying it now about 3 months. And the person that told us about this said basically if you took 2 of them a day, it would help keep your immune system up to the point that you may not get the flu.
Most likely not.
Most likely not. So we're doing that. We're taking 2 a day, and I can tell you through the allergy season and everything that one has really helped our lungs. Dr. Lewis used to get bronchitis all the time, every year. He doesn't get that anymore, and it's not that we don't have things still come after us like that. We can feel it coming on. We'll just take a little extra of something, and it goes away. So I know that works. And then the other thing that we have coming in again, which we're super excited about, last year y'all knew it as Viricid, and it actually will, if you get the flu, you can take those and it will make those flu symptoms go away. It is incredible. And so we have our name on it now. It is called Vira Pro, and it is the same thing as the Viricid. So we have 2 things in our arsenal for helping you combat the flu, hopefully not getting it. But if you do, there is something that you need to keep on hand in your medicine cabinet.
Last year about this time, Jen and I went on vacation. We went out to Arizona because our meteorologist friend told us that was the place to go, but he was like a meteorologist. He was wrong. And I got the flu, but it hurt me much, much less than it would have had I not been taking all of these things, and I wasn't taking the Viricid at the time. But
Yes, I told him he had the flu, and he said, no, I don't have the flu. And I said, okay, sure looks like the flu, but okay. And so he suffered through for about 24 hours before he succumbed to my advice of the flu.
The answer is yes, ma'am, you're always right.
And we did that Viricid, and then he started getting better
then
and
I got
better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we ran from the ice. So this year we're going towards South Georgia or Florida or somewhere. We don't know. We're going east.
We're going away from snow and ice.
Maybe. The cordyceps is really, really good for the immune system, respiratory system, as Janet talked about, but it also very much enhances your athletic performance. And this was very well demonstrated in the 1993 Chinese National Games, where the Chinese ladies broke 9 world records, and not by just a little bit, but by quite a bit. So it helps prolong longevity. We do have the cordyceps in several different formulas here. It helps liver and kidney health. And hey, guys, listen up. It's also known as Himalayan Viagra or the sexual potentiator. That's just cordyceps.
Good thing I don't listen to you either.
Huh?
Yeah.
This guy I was telling you about is in the office says, well, have you heard about turkey tail? Yep, it's super, super high in antioxidants, and it has immune boosting polysaccharopeptides, and they say it may improve immune function in people with certain cancers. And it's like, well, I've read cancer research, and that's one of the ones they're very, very thrilled about and hopeful about, and they're thinking it helps gut health. Well, if you're living in America, you've got a gut problem because you're forced to eat genetically modified food full of glyphosate unless you grow it yourself. So it helps to increase the populations of the good bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. So it reduces inflammation. It's got maitake, shiitake, and they do a little bit different thing. Maitake is well researched about cancer and cholesterol and type 2 diabetes.
And it's grown in the USA.
Yeah, that was a question one of my patients, Mary. It's grown in the USA organically.
In a protected field.
Yeah. Lion's mane is another very highly researched that you don't see a lot of, but they're thinking it's going to protect against dementia, relieves mild symptoms of depression and anxiety, and very much speed up recovery from nervous system injuries, and it's very good for the digestive tract too.
Well, one thing that I would like you to talk about, which I was kind of didn't really know that this helped, but did you know that collagen and its amino acids are essential to healing, and it has to do with the impaired immune system if you don't have enough of it? Isn't that interesting? And so the amino complex or the amino acids, that kind of thing. Could you talk a little bit about why they're good for the immune system? You never hear about amino acids.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things I'd like to say. Well, one of them is glycine, and in our Amino Complete, that's the number one and largest amount of amino acid. And the reason we had it formulated like that is because, well, most people don't know, in the cell itself, you have a certain flexibility that should take place so the mitochondria can excrete, the toxins and increase its energy level. Well, glycine is adversely affected, or the flexibility of the cell is adversely affected by glyphosate. And so if you increase your intake of glycine, it increases the flexibility of the cell. And what else does that is the really super high quality fish oils, which we even have some new ones there. Then you got glutamine, and glutamine is absolutely, holy cow, healing to the lining of the GI tract. And there's a lot of others that are, good for, a lot of things. Tyrosine helps make the happy hormones. Theanine does, and da-da-da-da-da. This is very important for people that work out a lot or people that are going through very serious medical issues. It helps them heal more quickly, whether it's surgery or just treatment for some of these bad diseases. And the collagen is a really good thing, too. Yes, that kind of helps hold the cells together, the hyaluronic acid. And people say, but why is it when I take chondroitin or collagen, why do my joints quit hurting? Well, because they're full of sulfur. And sulfur is one of the pathways of detoxification to the liver. And we sell more of it. Unfortunately, we sell more of it because it helps decrease the depth of wrinkles.
Like that.
There you go.
So take your collagen and your amino acids, or in our case, it's called amino complex. And then another thing I wanted you to talk about, everybody knows you should have high amounts of vitamin D. That vitamin D is great for your immune system.
Yep.
If you didn't know that, you need to be. But the other part is something called vitamin K. And vitamin K gets a very low rap on the sheet, so we're going to educate you about the importance of K. K1 is important for healthy blood clotting. You find it in dark green leafy vegetables. But vitamin K2 refers to a collection of bacterial menaquinines. Is that how you say that?
That's close enough.
That are found in a variety of different foods, namely animal foods and fermented foods. So would the D3K2 that we have be an even upgraded version of just straight vitamin D for immune health?
Yeah, it really does. And people say, well, I don't want K1. I said, well, if you've got good probiotics, it's going to convert to K2 or the menaquinone 7. The way it was explained to me, if you take D, it mobilizes calcium. That's like the bellhop that gets you and your luggage out of the car and takes it to the hotel lobby. So D mobilizes calcium. You got a lobby full of calcium. If you don't have the K, you don't get your luggage or you escorted to the room. And that means it mobilizes calcium, and if you have the proper amounts and types of K1, then that means you're much, much less likely for that calcium to go into the coronary arteries, and it goes into the bone where it's supposed to, and you don't plaque your arteries. So K is incredibly important. I know it works because I've had my coronary calcium score, which everybody should think about getting one at age 40 to 50. They're very inexpensive, and you'll get a cardiologist or radiologist that specializes in cardiology to give you a report.
Awesome. So do your D3 plus K2.
Yep.
Cool. And then I want to make sure we address these questions that all of you are so kind to write in. One thing I want to say, the questions before have been coming on our closed Shooting Straight Facebook group that's with Dr. Lewis. It's Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis, where people have asked lots of questions. You can continue asking questions there, but just this week we've added in a form that will pop up on our website of greenwisdomhealth.com. So if you're not on Facebook, you can actually go on there and put your first name in there. We won't mention your last name. And we may pick your question to be on our next podcast. So we thought we'd extend it to people that are not just on Facebook and give everybody an opportunity to ask a question they would like answered. But this week we have a few, and the first one is from Jason. And he's wanting your thoughts on red meat being inflammatory. Do you think it is? He's basically eliminated everything else off of his list, but he's wondering about red meat.
And that's because I posted something on my Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis, my Facebook group there. And it told a lot of different things that are inflammatory, and meat was one of them. And I kind of have to take exception to that. Yes, meat can be inflammatory, but if you have the grass-fed, you have a better ratio of omega-3s to 6s to 9s, etc. So, and the other thing is sometimes it can be inflammatory, think gout, but that's normally because you don't have enough digestive enzymes and or probiotics. So, I'm all for meat. I think some of us eat too much of it, and it's certainly not the good quality, and it makes a difference in the quality. People say, well, it doesn't matter. It's meat. It's like, well, yeah, well, like all women are the same.
To eat organic. But in your women as well, I guess. Is that what that means? I'm not even sure.
Well, no, organic means the woman might not shave her legs or armpits, so you want to get one that's well taken care of herself. Everybody, we all have different preferences, I know. I'm going to be in deep
Yeah, this is
trouble.
An interesting show, going a lot of down trails that we're not sure where they're headed. We'll go to Penny. Penny has a question about red light therapy, real or bogus. Her husband had 3 bulging discs. He's had 8 weeks of chiropractic and a cortisone shot with no relief. She looked at what else might help and stumbled on the light therapy idea, but it seemed kind of woo-hoo to her, and so she's asking you, what do you think about red light therapy?
I used it years ago on my elbow and triceps because I was adjusting too many people, and it worked. It was a good thing. I questioned how good and should you go spend thousands of dollars on it, although Eddie up in, I think it's Woodbridge, Illinois, he thinks his red light thing has been very, very good. I think it's a good thing, but just because you tried a chiropractor doesn't mean that you got the right one. Even though there's probably the one you're going to is probably great, but sometimes you need a different outlook or a physical therapist, somebody that knows myofascial release. Once you do myofascial release, most things can get much, much better.
And Maggie would like to know, is red light therapy the same as cold laser therapy?
And my answer there was no, but although it can be the same, the laser therapy that I've been introduced to is certainly different than what you get with red light therapy. I think laser's the bomb. I think it can go really, really deep.
And I think she's using that at her chiropractor's office when she has her hand hurts from
Dupuytren's contracture.
There you go. Yeah.
Well,
which I don't really know what that is, but I thought it was very interesting, your answer to her of what helps that. So there may be people out there that have Dupuytren's contractures.
Or other scarring conditions. Think keloid when you scar.
Yeah, and what helps with that? Because you wrote on there, what
it can be iodine, but also told Maggie it can be a lot of other things too. I know iodine can very much work. I've got a little touch of deuterine. It's just like, yeah, not a big deal. But
what is that? Your hand just hurts?
The contracture right there.
Oh, he's pointing to the middle of his hand, and I guess it's where your lifelines come across for fortune telling.
She lives with me, folks, and she never noticed. Okay, you're in deep trouble too. Yeah, we do have in our society too much of a scarring issue, and sometimes that's just a nutrient issue or lack of nutrients, and that can go back to the collagen and amino acids. But I've seen several times where iodine helped clear it up too.
Very good. Okay. We learn something new every day, and a lot here on the show. And then our other question is from Crystal. When she gets a change in the barometric pressure, she feels it in her spine, and it can be quite miserable for about 24 hours. What can she do to help with the pain? She's currently taking a leave, but it helps some. You know, a lot of people have to do that kind of thing. They do Tylenol and leave, Advil, but then they feel bad about it because they're all trying to do natural, healthy things. So what can they do to help with the pain?
Well, a barometric pressure does really affect us, and it affects the pressure, the osmotic pressure. Even the moon phases. If it can raise the sea in tides, it affects us also. I think anything that's anti-inflammatory, and there's so many different things that can do that. Turmeric, although there's a lot of absorption problems with curcumin turmeric, and every company says, no, we have the best. Maybe not. And we're working on one that, from all the science I can read, is going to be absolutely the cat's meow, the best, the most absorbable for the least amount of money. So go to turmeric, curcumin. Our bromelain, or quercetin bromelain, is a good thing.
Yeah, quercetin bromelain is a great answer. And back to the immune system, there was another product that does not get much action either that people don't really know about, and that's something called vitamin A. I know we get that out of carrots and that kind of thing, but how do you take vitamin A, and how does that help you with your immune system?
Well, it goes back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier. If you have the C, then it's converted, or the zinc, it's converted correctly. What we have is micellized, and what that means is broken down into such small particles that the body can very quickly and very efficiently absorb this stuff. Deficiency can look like dry hair, dry skin, dry eyes, poor growth, night blindness. Deficiency abscesses might be created in your ears, possibly insomnia, fatigue, reproductive difficulties, sinus problems, respiratory issues, and there's a lot of other things that can contribute to the same symptom complex, so you have to be careful about what conclusion you draw there.
It's interesting, dry eyes, because I've been doing the micellized day now for about 2 or 3 months, and my eyes are definitely better this winter than they usually are. They're usually very dry from having LASIK surgery. And so I do anything I can to try to keep my eyes moist. And the micellized A is something I've added in. It tastes kind of like it's in sweet, fat carrots or something. I don't know. It doesn't taste bad, and you don't do much of it. You're only supposed to do like a few drops of it.
Yeah, I think one drop's like, what is it, 167% of your RDA. So instead of doing a drop, I do a whole dropper full, so I'm overdosing on it. And if you've got high liver enzymes, you really don't want to overdose on A. It can be toxic because it's a fat-soluble vitamin like D and K and E. So be careful with that. Follow directions, unlike what I do.
And then there's one other product that you can do whenever you feel like you have a lot of the mucus congestion and you can't cough up the phlegm. We're having a lot of people come in now and say, I just have all this constant cough and I have thick mucus. There's something called N-Acetylcysteine, and it's NAC, and it doesn't get much press either because no one really knows about it or talks about it. But it will actually go in and thin the mucus, and it's huge for liver health. So at night, if you're having trouble sleeping, like from 1 to 3 in the morning, and you're having a lot of congestion and coughing, you might try adding in NAC. I personally do 2 of those at bedtime, and the next morning, if you do have any phlegm, it just comes up. You don't keep it in your chest so that it's there for you to get sick, down the road for months later, or turn into pneumonia or whatever it does. It will just help keep everything going very smoothly.
It also creates glutathione, the master antioxidant. So it's a really good thing. Helps create energy in the mitochondria of the cells.
Very good. So we hope you have learned something again today on our show about immune health, and we're hoping that all of you stay well out there. And for those of you that are not feeling good and are new to listening to us, go to our website, greenwisdomhealth.com. Fill out our health survey. We're here to help you feel better, not stay sick. You're supposed to live healthy, happy, have fun, and it's time for you to do that. So get started by filling out the health survey. We send you to a lab locally across the United States. We take the guesswork out of what you need for nutrition, so you're not saying, hey, I need to buy everything they talked about. There may be something specific for you that's going on that we need to see on lab. So again, share our show. We appreciate you listening to us. Send us your questions. We'll be here next time on the Green Wisdom Health Show. You guys have a blessed week.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.